Hello and welcome to Thursday Night Talk. This is a show where we discuss the week in Humboldt, the local issues and the local personalities. I'm Nicole Goldbach. I'll be sitting in for Talby Freed this week. Do you believe Christian values are incompatible with the two-spirit LGBTQIA world? Think again. Joining us tonight is Joanie Lindenmeyer, former Catholic nun, high school teacher, and coach. She has a book out entitled Nun Better, an amazing love story. She also produces a podcast, Joyously Free, which can be heard right here on KZZH 96.7 every Saturday and Sunday morning at 9:40 a.m. Welcome, Joanie.
Hey there, Nicole. Good to see you. What a great intro. You have such a radio voice.
Thank you, Joanie. I wanted to let everyone know if you have any questions for our guest, Joanie, tonight, please text them to 707-498-4146. Again, text those questions on to 707-498-4146. But yeah, Joanie, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. The folks at home who are just listening can't quite see the beautiful hat you have on.
Oh boy, it's
But,
my rainbow flags, and they just sort of bounce around. I have several hats I always wear when I give presentations or I'm just being me, and so that's what you got tonight, my bouncing flags.
I love that. I love the view. I would also love to. I know about you, Joanie, but for the folks at home listening, can you give us just a bit of a synopsis and speak on None Better as well as your other two books and
Oh,
potentially podcast?
I would be glad to. I'd be glad to. Well, you said it already. My name is Joanie Lindenmeyer. I'm 68 years old. I mean, young, 68 years young. And I've been a resident of Brookings Harbor for 34 years. I taught for 25 years at Del Norte High School. I taught phys ed and health. I was a nun for 5 years. Back when I was 23 years old. And I fell in love with a beautiful nun at that time named Carol Tierheimer, and she was 15 years older than myself, so she was 38. We have lived an incredible, joyous 40 years of love life, and I'll get more into that a little bit later, but a little bit more about me is I love being outdoors. I love fishing. I like to hike. I walk on the beach a lot. I love to bake treats, some really, really good zucchini bread from my garden this year. And I am a member of St. Tim's Episcopal Church here in Brookings. I left the Catholic Church. We can talk more about that as well.
Yeah.
And my family is mostly all in Southern California, where I grew up, which is San Diego. I'm a San Diego State Aztec. If anybody's out there and into sports, I played volleyball for San Diego State for 2 years. That was very, very, very fun. And of course, I have a great coaching career, 20 years of all ages, from kindergartners up through high school, and just love that part of life too.
Nice.
So how's that for a little intro of who I am?
That is wonderful. An outdoorsy girl who loves her sports. And with coaching, did you coach primarily volleyball?
I did. I did.
Okay.
Volleyball, basketball, softball, a little bit of track. And one time I even coached a flag football team at a Catholic school for the boys, because it was not a co-ed at that time. And we won the city of San Diego. We won it all, so my very first time coaching flag football with boys. And wow, that was a fun one. That was a fun one. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds fun.
Yeah.
So, None Better, an amazing love story. So, story of you and Carol.
Yes. Yes. And I don't know if you've seen the book yet, but it's on 39,000 websites. I'll give a little background, if you don't mind, about it. Can I do that?
Yeah,
Okay,
please.
perfect. Well, what happened was Carol and I had this incredible life, and we did all kinds of adventures. And There was a time we were in New York City and got on the subway, and she actually did a pole dance around the pole in the subway. Then there was another time we were on a vacation in Tucson, Arizona, and in walks all these weird creatures, and they were wild javelina that had come up from the arroyo, and they were hanging out in our living room. So I'm running around chasing them out. And so we've just had so many things we found ourselves getting into, which was all joy and happy, and somehow we got ourselves out of it. And so by telling those stories to people, they would say, you need to write a book. You need to write a book, all our friends and family. And so we started a book, and I'll show you the book. This is what we started.
So
Oh my gosh. It's
in an
just
original composition.
the original composition. It's a binder. I mean, what do you call it? A three ring. What do you call these kind of binders?
Oh, a spiral notebook.
Spiral notebook. It's a spiral notebook, and so we started to write down what we thought would be some of our stories. And lo and behold, okay, that's good and good and good. And then all of a sudden, Carol had a massive brain bleed stroke. And this book went in the kitchen drawer. And I didn't find it until I was cleaning the house 8 years later after she had died. I took care of her for those 8 years. And so I found the book. I'm in the middle of grief. I take it to my living room prayer corner, and I'm sobbing in the corner, holding and clutching my spiral notebook and saying, Jesus, God, Carol, should I write this book? And the answer was, yes, go for it. Well, I don't know if you believe in serendipitous moments, but within 15 minutes, my very good friend Dan, who we gave him away at his wedding to Andrew over at Hyatt Lake in Oregon, he calls and says, hey, I want you to meet a friend of mine. Her name is Catherine Greenspan, and she's a publisher with twosisterswriting.com. And I said, twosisterswriting.com. I said, we were two sisters, meaning nuns. And so I thought, okay, this has got to be connected. And so he goes, well, can you come on over? Can you talk to my business and give a pep talk as well? And I go, Dan, I'm in the middle of grief. It's only been a month or two. And he goes, oh, please come on over, meet Catherine. So I go over there, and I get to meet Catherine, and she introduces me by phone and Zoom to her sister, Elizabeth Atkins, the other part of her Two Sisters writing. And Elizabeth lives in Detroit, Michigan. So in a matter of just a few days, I guess, I'm writing a book. And also on that morning, I'm in that prayer corner, my sister Gail calls. And she goes, what are you doing? And I said, I'm going to write a book. She goes, you don't read books and you don't write books, Joanie. How are you going to do this? I said, I don't know. I'm just going to spill my guts out. And she goes, okay, that'll work. You're really good at doing that. So she drew the cover.
Oh, that is her art?
She did the art. Yep. So down in San Diego, California, she's having a cup of coffee, and she goes, okay, I've got your cover for it. And she goes, and by the way, your grandniece Cammie, she's drawn a big, beautiful picture of you and Aunt Carol. Let's see if I can show that better. And she wanted to give it to you when you come down. I said, oh, that is so cute. Maybe I could put that on the book. So there's a picture of Aunt Joanie and Aunt Carol underneath the rainbow by my 7-year-old grandniece. So all of a sudden, the book is already formulating and formatting, and oh my gosh. So I took a book coaching class from publisher Elizabeth Atkins, and would you believe 5 months later, I've written 534 pages. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she goes, that's way too big, Joanie. You've got to cut that down. No one's going to read it. I go, I've never read a book that big. And she just starts laughing some more. And she goes, well, you need to cut it down to 300. So my friends, Leah Owens and Sally Roy, people from my high school, Del Norte High School, my teachers, my counselors, they said, well, let me help you edit some of that to get rid of some of those pages. So we cut it down to 300 pages, got that back to Elizabeth Atkins. And I said, well, I have a bunch of pictures I want to put in there. And she goes, oh, you do? I said, yes, because pictures tell stories. And so inside this book here, I'll open it up here in just a second and show you. And so I submit the pictures to her, and she says, oh my gosh, Joanie, they're right dab in the middle. I said, fantastic, because we always wanted to be poster children. We wanted to be centerfold. And so there's our pictures. So every picture in the book here are stories of Carol and I. That picture right there is the very first kiss I gave to Carol in a convent building. I had just made vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. And I see her in the hall. I go flaming, running through the hall and give her this kiss. And then I realized I've got a problem. I just made vows and I'm in love with a woman. What the heck am I going to do? Woo, baby. And that's the gist of a lot of the story. That's the story. How do you deal with church? How do you deal with people and institutions and places that say, you know what? You being gay, you being trans, you being whatever your identity is, if you're not accepted, then what happens? And our answer was we were going to remain joyful and committed to each other and loving and kind. And that's how we got through life. And that's how I still do life today. It's called the 3 C's. You be courageous, confident, and you collaborate. You speak what's on your heart, but you're courageous and you're confident. And that's what I go around. So I go around and do book talks now. So I'm going to stop right there because you probably might have things going through your head, Nicole, since you've never seen this.
No, thank you so much. That's absolutely beautiful background and quite serendipitous that through your grief, you discover the spiral notebook again, filled with your stories, all in tandem with being connected with the publisher and at the same time connected with family members who are contributing to the look of it. It's I believe for a writer, sometimes those pieces end up being the hardest part. What am I going to put for the cover? What am I going to do? How am I going to edit? And everyone came together for you. And it's just as I believe you've said previously in other interviews, how your life with God has brought you to the nunnery, which brought you to the convent, all connected you to meeting Carol, to finding that love. Everything seems to be just a serendipitous moment of putting you in the right place, which is just
At the right time.
exactly. When it came down to editing, how did you, and especially with these stories being so personal and in creating it in a moment of grief, how, tell me or speak on, please, how the editing process went? How is it that you were able to take some stories out, and maybe can you give us a little insight on some stories that were left out?
Right. Right. And so it's a great question. And so bottom line is, as my editors in the publishing world, they say, tighten it up. And so that means go back and look at your sentences, make sure, and this is what I learned in book coaching, that you want to use your 5 senses plus the 6th sense of intuition. And so you want to look at every sentence or in every paragraph in everything you're writing to see if you have something that person can smell. Maybe you talk about the fragrance of a rose and you describe that fragrance. And this is the art of getting to be a better writer, is using those 5 senses and describing what it smells like. What does it sound like? What does it taste like? And it was a while for me. It took me about a month to get in the groove of doing that. So then when I went to edit it, I knew I needed to put more of that in there. So you don't just say, he walked slowly through the room. You could use a word instead of in something ending in an ly. You could do something that ends in an ed. He sauntered. And so that gives you a better description of it. And so by taking these professional book coaching classes from Elizabeth and Catherine, it helped me to edit even better, to trim it, to cut it down. Yes, there were some stories that didn't get put in here. And so I remember when that was my final verdict. So that's why 2 more books. That's why 2 more books. And so what do I do with those extra stories? And I asked that to my publishers, and they said, bottom line, they said, Joanie, you can go ahead and do podcasts. You could do nothing. You could write 2 more books. So back to my prayer corner I went. And this is the would be book number 2. And I didn't want to call it None Better 2. In here are more stories that I didn't put in None Better. but they're still to the point of being joyful and following my outline. And then with this book and Healing Religious Hurts, Nicole,
Mhm.
what came to me was I wanted to co-author them with Elizabeth Atkins. She's a famous best-selling author and has helped people, 60 or more people, write their books. And she agreed to do that. That was phenomenal. And I said, well, I've got another glitch there, Elizabeth. I want to form a team. I'm a sports person. I've been touring for 5 months to a year of None Better, and I've heard so many stories of people about their identity and their sexual orientation. And there was Martha, and Martha's story. I was at an assisted living place giving a book talk about None Better. And
Mhm.
she comes up to afterwards and she's using a walker and she walks up to me and she says, can I tell you something? She whispers in my ear. And I said, of course. And she goes, oh, I've never told this to anybody. I'm lesbian too, just like you. And all of a sudden, she turned around with her walker and she faced the 40 or 50 other senior citizen residents in this place. And she yells at the top of her voice, I'm lesbian too, just like Joni. I'm so happy. And she started to do a happy dance with her walker.
Oh my
Here
word.
she is, 84 years old, coming out for the first time in her life. My gosh, it was so touching, so touching. And so,
Absolutely.
meanwhile, I kept hearing all these stories everywhere I went. Oh my gosh, the wonderful, beautiful Hispanic family at Palm Springs Pride. I've done 24 prides, Nicole, 24 prides. I've had a booth and signed books. And so in Palm Springs was this beautiful Hispanic family and there was an aunt, there was a mom, there were three sisters, and then this beautiful person. And I said to the person, I said, "Hi, pronouns do you use?" And he's looking very male, and he goes, "I'm she, her." And he did that in front of the parents and the aunts, and that was a coming out to them. He had never done that before. And so these heartwarming stories that I hear from everybody. I met a man that was at Stonewall in 1969. He was a part of Stonewall, which is the
Yeah,
LGBTQ. Yeah. And so
absolutely.
all these stories and all these people, I thought, I've got to have them included in a book. And so what I did was there are 32 people that we asked across the United States from all walks of life to write their story of their truth. There is no book in the world like this, Nicole. It was nominated for a Lambda in June for 2025. We didn't win, but we were nominated for a Lambda.
That is amazing. And so you're
It-
speaking on Joyously Free, your second
yes,
book,
this is Joyously Free, book number 2.
which is
Joyously
also the
Free.
namesake of your podcast. And so
Yes,
going into that, your podcast then is speaking to folks who are telling their truths, speaking their stories out loud. That is just
absolutely.
how transcendent. And you just being there to witness or to speak, giving the strength to the 84-year-old who, for the very first time coming out, there's no too late time. And too late is never an option. At
That's
any
right.
point in life when you feel ready to speak your truth, do it joyously, is what I'm sensing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's a great comment that you just said because originally I thought the title was going to be a very small SH and a really large OUT, shout. I thought that was going to be the title. And then after talking about it with my publisher, my co-author, Elizabeth Atkins, we thought, no, it doesn't really summarize everybody for what is happening to them on the insides. Because when you actually speak your truth and live your truth, your sexual identity, your sexual, or whatever the issues may be, even straight people have their own sexual identity and their own sexual orientation and oh, there's just so many truths that a person has. But to be joyously free when you can be you, be the sparkle, be you got it.
That is wonderful. I believe we're heading on to a break, but we'll catch up with you back in just a moment. Welcome back. We are here with Joanie Lindenmeyer, author of Nun Better, an amazing love story. But we were just speaking on Joyously Free and talking about the potential of it originally being called Shout, but Joyously Free felt more encompassing of the feeling when somebody is able to speak their truth, and whether heterosexual or homosexual or whatever the case may be on someone's gender and sexual identities, the feeling of just being able to speak and be witnessed and be seen and loved for who you are is quite a transcendent experience. Um,
Is. It is.
I would love to, I need to ask about this. So, previously before the show, we were speaking on perhaps None Better, an amazing love story, becoming a movie. And I
Yes.
need to know who would play you and who would play Carol in your wildest
Ah,
dreams.
people have asked that to me over and over and over. Um, you'd have to have the young 23-year-old Joni,
Mhm.
and because our love life was 40 years, you'd have to have some spans, I think, of seeing this person grow. One of my favorite TV shows as a kid, Nicole,
Mhm.
was The Flying Nun.
Okay.
I don't know if you've ever heard of that with
I
Sally
haven't.
Field. Okay, I would love to have like a Field, a Diane Keaton, or somebody like that play me as the mature 68-year-old Joni or whatever, But as the young one, I don't know. Who do you think would be a young, vivacious actor that
Since
could?
you said Sally Field, her daughter, Margaret Qualley,
Oh,
oh, what a perfect pairing.
oh, oh, would that be cool or
But
what?
also, I see you as such a Diane Keaton. Oh my gosh. But yeah, Margaret Qualley going on to Sally Field, that would be, oh my gosh. And so for your lovely Carol.
For my lovely Carol. Oh, Carol, was just a magical person. She could listen so well. I'm a total extrovert, and she was right so balanced as an introvert and extrovert, had a joyful smile all the time. Her mantra was have big smiles and wear bright colors. She changed into outfits 3 times a day once she left the convent. Then it was like, oh my gosh, she just loved clothes. She was ecstatic. She had all kinds of jewelry. In fact, I'm wearing I'll take them off my feet here. I'm wearing her shoes right now.
Yeah. Oh, way to walk a
Everything
mile in
is
her
color.
shoes. Yeah.
Everything is color. I know. So who would play Carol? That's a great question. Um, I
Mm,
don't know.
I stumped you
I
with a
don't
good
know.
one.
I don't know.
If
You
it
know?
comes to you, you'll have to shout it out.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And if somebody has an idea, read the book. You can buy the book twosisterswriting.com. You can buy it at Barnes and Noble, um, Amazon. Like I said, wherever you buy books, you can buy it. And the cool thing about None Better, Nicole, I don't know if I told you this, but my brother and Mike Mavris in Crescent City, they said, Joni, I'm having a hard time seeing it. They're getting older. Would you do an audio book? So this is now an audible in my
Oh,
voice. And that was a very cool project to do. And I did it here locally in Brookings at the KCIW station, the studio. And so if you want to listen to me, read the story, oh my gosh. I went through 2 boxes of Kleenex, of course, with all the joys and all the sadness of doing it, but so I lost my train of thought there.
oh no, that is wonderful. Talking about speaking your truth, you literally wrote and
Oh,
then spoke your truth.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And we
Yes.
actually got a question in from one of our listeners asking,
Okay.
how did you get into radio and podcasting?
That's exactly Jacques Kepner in Crescent City at KFUG, KFUG. He was contacted by his good friend Darren Bradbury, who I also know, and Dalton Bradbury actually has a story in a thing on here and in here too. So I taught Dalton Bradbury at Del Norte High School. He's an attorney now down in Santa Clara. But anyways, so Darren Bradbury said to Jacques, you need to have Joni on radio. And so Jacques called me up. I go to Crescent City, go to the K-Fug studio, and then Jacques says, "Well, I have another radio show up in Brookings. Would you come and be on that one too?" So I went up to Brookings and I was on that radio show too. And so that's when I met Tom Bozak. And I thought we were going to hire two people to do the narration of None Better, but those fell through. And so I said to Tom one day, I said, "Tom, have you ever done an audio book as a sound man and a producer?" He goes, "No, but I'm willing to do it. Let's go for it. That'll be a great thing." And so lo and behold, that's what we did. Another serendipitous moment, Nicole. You know,
Yeah.
if you just trust, you put it out there and you trust, the right people will be there for you. To collaborate, and that's back to those three C's: courage, confidence, and collaborate, because we can all be involved in each other's lives. This isn't just a Joni thing. This is bigger than that. This is about every person having the freedom to be them, to be authentic, to be resilient, to be huddled and cuddled. And we're in this together as LGBTQ and our society. There's so many things going on in our world right now. Oh my gosh, from unhoused to shootings to drugs to human trafficking to, well, there's just a lot of stuff,
Mhm.
and my way is, you know what? Together, let's conquer this stuff. Let's stay together. Let's be hopeful. Let's find things that we are similar in. That's what we can do to be better people, to be happier people. What are your
Absolutely.
comments on that?
My comments on that, well, I just love that he said there's none better than you to be voicing your own audiobook. And I think you're right in that when you are your authentic self, or almost like that whole thing is okay, if you have no one to go to the concert with, still go. Or if you have no one to go to the show or the movie you want to watch, still go, because you'll end up in a space with all the people who like the same thing you like. And in that, you'll make connections and meet somebody, and you'll say, oh, just out and say into the world, I want to be on the radio. I want to be podcasting. And someone around you will hear you and say, I have a friend who does podcasting. Let's have you guys have a chat. I think you
Exactly.
just have to put your foot forward and say, speak your truth. Say, this is what I would
Yes,
like to do, and align your actions with your goals. And
exactly.
that'll get you where you're going. And the serendipitous moments will just feel as if they're, a rainfall over you.
Very cool, very cool.
That is the way to
Yes.
do it.
You
That
know,
is
and
literally how I'm here.
serendipitously, yeah, and serendipitously, sort of how this happened too. I met Michaela at the Crescent City Pride, and excuse me, Del Norte Pride in Crescent City, Del Norte and Trabalands Pride in Crescent City this year. And so she's connected me with the queer Humboldt queer community, which means that on November 2nd, it's a Sunday from 2 to 4, Queer Humboldt is sponsoring me to come and give a real live talk, person to person. I'll have books there for sale as well. But some people have never met an author. I had never met an author before. I had never been to a book launch before. So come and enjoy our fellowship and our community and being together in this presentation discussion. And I'm bringing homemade cookies that my 94-year-old neighbor Doris makes for every event that I go to. Oh my gosh. Yes.
Ah, so what recipe is Doris using? A little snickerdoodle, a little chocolate chip?
She has, oh my gosh, she has snickerdoodle, molasses, Kahlua chocolate chip is always a favorite. Oh my
Ah,
gosh.
wonderful.
The Heath cookies. Oh my gosh. So I'm bringing an assortment of those. That's for sure.
Nice, and that'll be on November 2nd, and where is that?
I do you help me out.
Okay.
Queer Humboldt is sponsoring it. Do they have their own location?
You know what? We'll have to put that information following up to make sure we get listeners to the right
Yes, but I
place.
know it's November 2nd from 2 to 4, and I will be there. And it's going to be a humdinger. I do a lot of talks and a lot of presentations, and I literally go from bars to pulpits, you know.
That is wonderful, and especially when you called your sister to say, I'm writing a book. She goes, you don't read a book? You've never written a book. How are you going to do that? Simple. Go out there, November 2nd, meet the writer, Joanie Lindenmeyer herself, and get some inspiration. Or get out in the
There you
world,
go.
fall in love, and make some stories yourself, and put them in a notebook.
Absolutely.
One day, you never know, that notebook could be
Everybody
your
has a
very first.
story.
Everybody does have a story. And one book to three books. That That is
in 2
amazing.
years. And
Yeah.
and a best-selling book,
Mhm.
I mean, that was number 24 for 4 months in a row. Number 24, 4 months in a row. Do you know that 80,000 books are published in the United States every month?
Really?
80,000 new in English. That's in the language of English. I don't know about other languages, but 80,000 books, new books are published every month in the United States. So when I scored number 24, 4 months in a row, that is huge. To me, that's like a World Series and a Super Bowl put together,
It really
you know?
is.
It
Just to
really
even
is.
for people to even know your title with 80,000 a month, that
Right,
quite an achievement
right,
and
right.
worthwhile. I mean, I feel as though love really draws people in, and especially
Yes.
within a religious community or coming from a religious community, it feels, when you are LGBTQ, it's there must be some barriers or some I feel like folks who are coming from that background may feel a bit of shame or feel something's not right, just as you were saying, after
Mm.
you took your vows, you went and gave Carol a little smooch on the cheek. It must have
Mhm.
felt rebellious or something of the nature when you realized your feelings.
It felt wonderful.
Really? It did oh, so you knew
I
immediately,
knew,
this is
I knew.
okay.
It was just a matter of timing and discernment and prayer and making sure it was right for me. And I've always said this, it had to be, I had to be doing the Lord's will, not just leaving the convent and not just getting together with Carol. It had to be what I believe the Lord's will was for me. And she also had to have that same connection. And that's my prayerfulness. So speaking of another story, oh my gosh,
Please.
back in the day, it was Pope Francis when the book was published, which was 2023. And so I went to the post office to mail this because I wanted to mail it to Pope Francis. And so I was at the postal thing and you're filling out the import export paper. And I don't know Pope Francis's last name. I don't have my phone on me. So I turn around to everybody in the post office. Does anybody know Pope Francis's last name? People are in line and they're like shaking their head and they go, somebody? Thinking, well, maybe somebody would jump on their phone and give me an answer, right?
Yeah.
Nobody responded. So I just put hope. And so I completed filling this out, tried to get some more involvement from people on some of these questions. Anyways, so I know that it went to him. I know this was published March 19th, which was the day that we made vows, 2023. So then from March 21st, I mailed it to Pope Francis. Well, in December of that year, April, May, how many months is that? March, April, May. So 5, 6 months later, December 19th, if everybody remembers, that was the day that Pope Francis declared that priests could now bless gay, queer, same-sex people. Did he
Oh,
bless the relationship? But at least he said that priests could go ahead and bless queer people. And
wow.
I know my phone was flooded. My emails were flooded with people saying, Joni, I think the Pope read your book. And even if he can't read it, I think he must have looked at the picture on there and saw the love going on. And
Mhm.
my vision is, I think he had the book and put it under his cassock and went over to this cardinal's desk and put it on there, picked it up, went over to another cardinal's desk and put it out there. And I think that somehow via spirit, we can influence and make great things happen for our world. I really believe that.
That is absolutely true. You be the change you want to see in the world. But again, your story is just filled with these serendipitous moments of you send it to the Pope and not even a year later.
Yeah.
This well, firstly, just to backtrack just slightly, I will say that November 2nd, we had some researchers on the side looking into that event, and we did not find out the exact location. But please, anyone listening, if you'd like to check out that event on November 2nd, contact info@queerhumboldt.org for more information and to be sure to be there and get some of those cookies.
Yes,
But
yes, yes, yes.
I would love to ask the question. Um,
Thank you
so
for checking on that.
yeah, no problem. And I want to be a little bit more well versed in the realm of Episcopalian and Catholic
Okay.
ceremony. So I know you and Carol originally were not or did not marry under the Catholic Church, but were able to under the Episcopalian.
Yes.
Yeah, and so can you please explain, or I mean, I'm sure in terms of religion, it gets very deep, or
Right.
it can get quite
Right. What
lengthy. But how is that able to happen? And what are the difference between the churches for folks who maybe are looking for a church that will accept them?
that is such a great question. That in all these questions that you're asking, they are answers in these books as well, which is really, really cool because these are guidebooks, they are resource books, and they're filled with information and knowledge. So simply put, that the Catholic Church does not, will not, and does not marry same sex, same gender people. That is against who they are. Okay. So they don't do that. We tried for 39 years. We wrote letters to priests and to bishops and to popes in those 39 years that we wanted to have a sacramental marriage, not just a legal marriage, but we wanted a sacramental. So we mailed many, many letters to different ordained people to marry us in the Catholic faith. Nope, 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 never happened, never happened. So, long story short, we thought our last thing is, okay, let's try one more time. And the stories are in the books as well. And both the people that ordained Catholic people said, no, Joni, so sorry, can't do that. We know how much you guys love each other and all this, but we just can't do it. And so Carol says, well, gee whiz, Joni, call Father Bernie Lindley at the Episcopal Church in Brookings, Oregon at St. Timothy's. So we'll call Father Bernie and Bernie, this is Joni and Carol. And we knew Bernie because when Carol had her stroke, she was at a care facility in Brookings, Oregon. And Bernie was the minister from our community that came once or twice a week to visit with the people at the care facility. And so that's how we met Bernie. So for 8 years of Carol being in and out of a care facility, we got to know Bernie. So here we are calling Bernie Lindley up, and he's the ordained priest, the vicar. And we said, Bernie, will you marry Carol and I? Absolutely. How about Wednesday? This is on a Friday. And we're like, yes, Bernie, yes. And he goes, okay, let's do it. Do you have rings? I go, yes, we've been wearing them for a long time, and he goes, okay, well, make sure you go up to Gold Beach and go and get your paperwork done and everything. And how about we do it at 2 o'clock on that Wednesday, August 5th. That was the date, August 5th, 20. And so is the middle of COVID. So we couldn't do it anywhere else. So we had to do it in our living room. We thought it was going to be a beautiful day outside in our yard, and the fog came in and it was drizzly, 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 drizzly. And so now we're in the living room. Tim Guzik, who was the person, my dear friend, our dear friend, who named the book Nun Better. That's another story in itself. He was one witness, and then Carol's trans sister, Sarah, was our other witness. And then it was Bernie and his wife, Paige. And so there were 6 of us for a big whoop celebration of marriage, and
Oh,
that's where we did our vows, and it was so beautiful. And it's written in this book here. And it's a great question to ask, because what churches will celebrate and marry people that have a same gender lover?
yeah.
That's a great and what churches don't?
Hmm.
And off the top of your head, you think, okay, so what is it about the Episcopal Church that's so cool? I became an Episcopalian for 3 reasons. One is, yes, they will marry same gender people.
Hmm.
Second one, a woman can be a deacon, a priest, a bishop. That is not true in the Catholic Church or many other churches. So it's a women's issue. It's a same gender issue. And then the third one in the Episcopal Church, a lay person that is within the Episcopal Church has the same voting right as a deacon, a priest, or a bishop. And so last year was the very first year that I was nominated, appointed by my local St. Timothy's to go to the annual convention. And I actually got to vote. I got to speak into a microphone and vote. For years, Carol was a sister for 32 years. I was a sister for 5 years. We never had a voting right in anything to do with the church. But as a lay person in the Episcopal Church, the lay person is as valuable. So the Episcopal Church works from the bottom up versus a Catholic Church that the top down. And that to me is really, really important. So know your church, know your denomination and what they stand for and what they don't stand for. Are they LGBTQ friendly or not? Check out their websites, talk to them, belong to something that fits who you are. And maybe it's not a church, maybe it's not a religion, maybe it's a spirituality.
Yeah, that
It
is a
doesn't
great
have to be,
point.
it's whatever connects you to, I'm just going to say a higher being. You don't even need to have the word God or Jesus. People all have our own internal belief of things and that goodness and that greatness.
Oh, that is a wonderful point. We're going to end on that just for a moment as we take our second break, and we'll get right back to it once the break is over.
Okay.
You're listening to Thursday Night Talk on KZZH. I'm here with Joanie Lindenmeyer. We were just speaking on how to find your community, how to whether religious or just a spiritual community. The fellowship and gathering I'm gathering is the most fruitful of it all. And if anybody at home listening would like to participate in the discussion, text us at 707-498-4146. Again, don't feel shy. Send in those texts to 707-498-4146. So, Joni, I love the reasons that you were drawn to the Episcopalian Church, that bottom up level of equality, not only for same gendered relationships, but also women, and just the lack of the very strict hierarchy when it came to voting rights within the church. That's a wonderful way. But you were speaking on perhaps maybe not even Christian focused or religion focused, but finding community or finding spirituality. Uh, your third book in Healing Religious Hurt.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
Healing Religious Hurts. Can you speak a little bit what you mean by religious hurts?
Yes. And the rest of the title is Stories and Tips to Find Love and Peace. Just like we have stories and tips to be an LGBTQ ally or an LGBTQ person, it's the stories and tips. And they are so real, the stories and tips in here. Both books are books that are, like I said, are a resource guide with reflective questions. And in Healing Religious Hurts, there's even QR codes that Elizabeth Atkins, who's a meditative guru, takes people on. So you can just plug put that QR code there, and you've got 20 minutes of a great meditation. But what are healing religious hurts? And that's different for everybody. So on my book tours, here are some of the things that I heard from people. Okay. Okay. One would be they don't accept who I am as a trans person.
Mhm.
They don't accept me because I've been divorced.
Oh, okay.
They don't accept me because I won't pay a tithe.
Wow, that
I
is an
know,
interesting
I
one.
know. And then other religious hurts are I was abused by a minister. I
Yes.
was brainwashed. I
Mhm.
was forced to go to a church. I didn't have a voice. I
Yes.
didn't feel happy. I wasn't comfortable in that church with those people. And
Mhm.
so all these are hurts that build up. And if people are not finding a way to find the love and peace within themselves, it's really hard then to move on to some kind of connections with the divine or spiritual life. And I believe in my heart of hearts that we are spiritual beings as well as we are human beings, Nicole. And I
I
have
think
had
so.
in all my books, I even talk about the dreams and the apparitions and the miraculous things that have happened to me and to other people, and there is no explanation for it. Even when Carol had her stroke, before that she had wore hearing aids. When
Mhm.
her stroke happened, hearing came back.
Really?
Yes, that's just one example. I have seen angels. I have seen light. I have had Carol come back to me as a deceased person. My good friend Michael Hensley lives in Crescent City. He's a seer
Mhm.
that can converse with the dead and with living, and he has premonitions. And so there's so many ways. My friend's Debbie, who is agnostic, it has just a beautiful soul and just so kind, And then I have my friend Marquet, and Marquet's story is so good because it was like she was dealing with, what do I say and what do I not say to my son who's now transitioning to a woman? What do I do? How do I say? What do I do? And
Mhm.
so she realized that she really messed up and she needed to forgive herself for not being there for her child in a loving, kind way.
Yeah, there's
So,
no real rule book, and sometimes when people are hit with some change that they're not used to, they may speak out from a place where that they're not just it's from ignorance, not trying to be malicious ignorance, they're just unsure. But I'm
yes,
loving that you're expressing that spirituality and connection to the divine is on a spectrum, much like gender, much like sexuality. It's not
yes,
100% has to be a specific sect of Christianity or whatever the case may be and towards religion. It could be a connection agnostic where you are still spiritually connected to another place. That is
right.
I'm I love
Yes,
that concept because I feel there is a all or nothing uh, phrasing sometimes when it comes to religion that can really push people off because there were those children who maybe were forced to go into Sunday school every Sunday, but really as their parents were thinking, I'm doing the best for them, but that just puts a bad taste in their mouth that it was not by
right,
choice.
right.
Mm.
Right, right. And we had so much fun, Elizabeth and I, and creating their team. On this book here, 17 people have contributed their heartfelt journey and story, again, living their truth about their hurt. When for many of them, they had never verbalized or written about it before. And so it was very therapeutic for them to be able to write and to get that off their chest, so to speak. Just so you know, our chapter titles, the very first one is What Are Religious Hurts? And we get into a list of them as well. And then the tips and stories of what to do about it. Viv Ashton, she's a wonderful trans young 20-year-old, and her title is Escape from Mental Alcatraz, because she felt so forced to follow her parents' religion, and that wasn't who she was.
Yeah.
Wasn't who she. Then we have sexism, we have oppression, we have the leaders and business, the business of religions,
Hmm.
the wealth of religions, and
Yeah.
what happens to the money part of all that. Then what about marriage and death? In the LGBTQ community, I can count how many marriages I've been to in a church for a same genders couple. And how about deaths? What do we do about death? Do we celebrate death? Do we have a closure? Do we have a beginning of a new life? Because to me, that's what it is. And I learned that so well when Carol died. And mm, we had a celebration at the Wild River Pizza Party. Carol did not want to have a rosary. She did not want to be in a church. She wanted everybody to be invited to a celebration of new life.
Yeah. So she's
You know?
closing this chapter here on Earth, opening another chapter.
Right, right. And then we have a chapter on forgiveness, how
Mhm.
to forgive yourself as well as others, or an institution or an organization. How do you forgive for what has happened? And that could be a judicial, that could be an educational place, that could be a church or a synagogue or a mosque. It's not just Christian base.
Mhm.
And then where do you go for your answers? How do you go within? How do you do your prayer or your connection to the divine or to a higher being? And can you do that through meditation or walking in a park or hiking on the beach? what are some ways to do that? So the stories and tips in here are profound, just absolutely profound. And so
That's so
I highly
interesting.
recommend that. Highly
Oh,
recommend that.
absolutely. I already mentally noting who on my Christmas list is getting those books.
There you go.
Because
Yeah,
there's
and
so
that's a
it's
great, people buy these for graduation gifts and Christmas gifts. And when I can sign it for them and I can put it to whatever name they want to have, then it's there. And books last forever.
yeah.
Books last forever.
That's the wonderful part when you need a little, need a little reminder. Go back to your favorite chapters, much like reading the Bible. Go back to your favorite verse. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Oh, hey, we got a text from an audience member. What are you currently reading, Joni?
What am I currently reading? I just finished Margins. Has anybody read, it's in the other room, and it's a lesbian book, and it's taken place down in Los Angeles, in Manhattan, El Segundo, which I think is some of the area that you were saying you were
Yeah.
from, Nicole.
Yeah, El Segundo High,
And
class of 2011.
yeah. So I just finished Margins. I loved it. My friend Adela and Maggie, my good friends who live in Tucson, Adela sent it to me and said, Joni, it reminds me so much of your life with Carol and how you have had to grieve and then move on, because one of the characters in the book, her wife, no, I don't think they were married. No, they weren't married, but her significant other, female significant partner, died unexpectedly. And so how to deal with that, and then how to continue to live and find love and date and be open to a new relationship. And so those are things that I am beginning to do now too, to be open to new relationships. And it's wonderful to finally feel that you want to do that. So anyway, Margins is a great book.
Margins. Okay.
Margins.
I
Yes.
love that somebody read it. It was like, Joni, this one's for you. It feels good to sometimes live in the narrative of of a fictional character that aligns with
Yeah.
your own, just to
Yeah.
see how they go about it. That is
Yeah,
great.
yeah. Up here in Oregon, up in here in Brookings, Lori is wonderful. She runs the LGBTQ book club for youth and young adults. And so they pick a book every month and then they get together and talk about it. And so it's a great program that they do here. I don't know if something like that is available in Arcata or Eureka. Do you know?
Oh, we have a number of book clubs. I know specifically we do with our county library. They have different genres of book club. I believe they have a romance, which is not non-specific to LGBTQIA folks, but
Mhm.
um, if there isn't one, any Humboldt listeners, get on it.
You bet. And I
Yeah.
would love to come and do something at the local library down there. I do a lot of talks at libraries. Jackson County, oh my gosh, I've been Ashland, Medford, Central Point. I'll be doing Eagle Point and White City all coming up as well. But I love to go to libraries. Bend, Oregon just got me going today too. Oh, and I'll be at Newport Pride on the 20th of this month. I'll be at Newport Library on the 19th of this month. And so you can look at all my events if you're interested. If you go to twosisterswriting.com,
Mhm.
that's the way, and I have an author page in there, and then you just click on events and you'll see where I am and what I'm doing. And so I am literally all over the place.
That is a perfect segue because we're coming to the end of the show right now, but so I want to give you a few moments to say where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing, but that is a wonderful plug, twosisterswriting.com. Check
Two
out
sisters. Mhm.
Joni's authors page and see what events she's coming up to. But is there anything else? Any takeaway?
Well, I'm on Facebook, I'm on TikTok, and I'm gonna throw out my email right now to people. And I don't know if you have a chat and you can post it or something, Nicole, but it's J Lindenmeyer
Jalen?
13 at Gmail. And I am open to anybody having conversation with me via that way, or Facebook, or TikTok. I'm learning Instagram, and I'm just now learning Snapchat. So
Oh,
that's something else. And then I have my biggest thing, I think, is the radio station that I do up here in Brookings, which is KCIW.org, KCIW.org, joyously free. And then Joyously Joni, it's my YouTube channel. And I just post all kinds of fun, crazy things on there because it is about joy. It is about joy and being free.
Oh, okay. About
So,
being free, joyously free. And of course, here on Saturdays and Sundays at 9:40 a.m.
yes, yes,
Yes.
so glad.
KZZH.
Yes,
Joyously
yes,
free.
yes,
And it's at
yes.
9 a.m. Apologies. So I think that about wraps it up. I'm excited to look for you on TikTok, Joni.
Yes, 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 yes. Good, 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 good. And that's under Joanie Lindenmeyer. Pretty simple. Joanie
Okay.
Lindenmeyer. Yep. And I want to thank you, Nicole, for great questions and some conversation. And I know I felt like I did most of the talking tonight, but I'd like to learn more from you too.
Oh,
Are
Joni,
you going to be?
you're so interesting. Are you kidding me? Everything was so good. I cannot wait to read all through all of your books. I've
Yeah.
learned so much about what we have going on within ourselves and what maybe other people are struggling with day to day that we don't know until
Mhm,
we bridge that gap, have those conversations. And again, that story with the 84-year-old who,
mhm,
after
mhm,
you spoke, stood up and came out. It makes you
mhm,
realize
mhm.
how many people are going through life keeping something to themselves, and it really just takes the catalyst of meeting another person who is being authentically themselves
Right.
to allow themselves to be joyously free and say their truth. And it really has inspired me. I'm loving our conversation today, and I'm really appreciating it because it inspired me that if I am more authentic in myself in my day to day, who could I inspire? And for anyone listening as well, who could you possibly inspire? um, in your daily life just by being yourself and speaking your truth.
Right,
Yeah.
right. And if you're interested in writing a book, my,
Mhm.
my publisher and I, we have done for 2 years every Friday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, twosisterswriting.com, YouTube, how to write a book. That's our title, how to write a book. So every week we discuss something on how to write a book, how to publish it, how to edit it, how to promote it, how to do it from the insides to the outsides. And they are funny, they are hilarious. And I have a prop every week that I show. I feel like I'm a little theatrical person on that, but they're all over YouTube as well. How to write a book, how to write a book, because we all have a story.
And I would love to end on a wonderful random fact. Pope Francis's name is Jorge Mario Bergoglio.
Ah,
Bergoglio. We now know Bergoglio is the
I
one.
love it. I love it. All right. And now we have a new priest, Pope Leo. We
Yes.
have excuse me, a new Pope, Pope Leo. Yeah, so he's an Augustinian. I don't know Leo's last name either, but
Yeah, you know what? That'll be for the next adventure of finding out.
right,
Absolutely.
right, right.
Okay.
And maybe the dream is, and maybe the hope is that in all the organizations of religion, that women will be accepted, and we'll have women pope and women bishops, and wouldn't it be great to have a trans pope? It's Trans Month coming on for October, so it's like, yes, let's have more trans people in positions that are influencing people on a bigger scale,
Oh my
Oh,
gosh. From your mouth to God's ears, I would love to see that one day.
me
Truly.
too. Me
Yes.
too. Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you. It was such a joy speaking with you, Joni. Like, genuinely from the bottom of my heart, I really appreciate it. From one chatterbox to another, I've absolutely enjoyed listening to your stories. They're so inspiring. And with
And
that,
thank you all the listeners, huh?
oh,
Thank
yeah.
you all the listeners.
Thank you to the listeners, and thank you to the listeners who sent in questions. It's so fun when it's an engaging conversation, not just amongst us, but with the listeners as well.
Right,
But
right.
with that, that's about all the time we have today. I'd like to again thank you, Joni. Talvi will
Yes.
be back
Thank you.
next week with another Thursday night talk. If you have topics or suggestions for this show, please email us at kzzh@accesshumboldt.net. Again, if you're thinking, I have some suggestions for the show and I really want to hear them, or some specific topics you'd like to be spoken on, please email us at kzzh@accesshumboldt.net. And just a reminder, this show replays on Friday evenings at 8 p.m. right here on KZZH 96.7. And you can watch this whole show on Access Humboldt's YouTube channel. Thank you for joining us in the wonderful conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Thank you. Love you bunches. Big hugs, everybody. Big hugs. See
hugs.
you November 2nd.
Yeah, I'll catch you on November 2nd.